Ladies and gentlemen, the legendary, long awaited for, only spoken of in tales, Lightside Star Card Guide is finally here. Um, so yeah, we're gonna be just like the last video, like I said, would come out shortly after. It might have been a little longer than shortly, but it doesn't matter because it's out now. So um, yeah, we're just gonna be outlining my picks for the best cards on light side. Funny enough, I have dark side gameplay in the background, but happens. But I'll just be going through the cards on each character, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll put timestamps in the description down below for each character, and yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so for our first character, we have Chewbacca. First, you're going to take his maximum health increase. That's kind of a given. It makes him tankier. And then next, you're going to take Echoing Roar, which Echoing Roar is really good because it extends the duration per kill of Furious Bowcaster by 40%. So it's refreshing almost half of the ability with every kill you get. So that's a really, really strong. It also combines really well with Impervious, which makes abilities dealing a 200 damage threshold makes abilities makes you get 2% damage reduction up to 34%. So in combination with the Furious Bowcaster card, you can get your damage reduction up to 34% really fast from all the damage you're going to be doing with Furious Bowcaster. And this is for trooper modes, of course. Now moving on to hero modes, you're going to want to replace the second card with Extended Shock or Shocked Invulnerable. Both of these cards are really good. That's kind of up to you which one you want to pick, because the longer duration card does give 20% longer recharge time. But the last thing I wanted to mention is Slammed is a fun card to use in close range maps and trooper modes, but you wouldn't normally want to use it. It's just kind of fun, and it'll one-shot heavies if you're using this card. But other than that, those are the cards for Chewie. Okay, sorry to interrupt everything, but I tried to pre-record the footage and then talk over it because that gives me better mic quality when I talk during the editing phase and not in clips that I record. But I found it just too difficult to do, so I had to record the gameplay basically of me talking over the cards. So it's kind of hard to explain, but there's going to be a decrease in mic quality. You'll definitely notice it. And I just want to apologize because there's really no other way I could make it work. It's kind of incohesive if I try otherwise. But yeah, sorry to interrupt, and I'll move on to Han. Okay, so next up is Han's card. So Han in hero modes, you're going to want to take Broad Shoulders, Air Burst, and Smuggler's Wits. Smuggler's Wits is really, really important. That extra dodge is worth a lot. Air Burst, just this damage increase is crazy. You're going to want this card in every mode. And Broad Shoulders is nice to have that damage reduction when you're rushing out a lightsaber hero. And as for trooper modes, you're going to want to replace Smuggler's Wits with Heavily Modified Blaster. You don't really need this in hero modes because it reloads pretty quickly. But it's nice to have in trooper modes when you're going to be shooting a lot more targets. And you can also replace Broad Shoulders with either Keep Your Head Cool or Sharpshooting Frenzy, which lets you just kind of chain the duration time. It says reduced recharge time, which I think is not supposed to say that, but this is a nice card to have as well. So those are the cards for him in trooper modes, and that's Han. Up next, we have Lando, and Lando's cards are pretty easy. Obviously, you take the increased health, just like Chewie, but you're also gonna want in hero modes you want Quick Shock, which makes the shock duration last 30% longer if you shock right after you throw it, within 5 seconds of throwing it. The shocker having this extra duration just lets you headshot them longer, do way more damage. All that's good.
As for his third perk, you're going to take Wide-Eyed, because Sharp Shot just needs more range, and it already does 200 damage, so it's really nice to have that extra range. And for Trooper modes, you're just going to take Quick Shock off and replace it with Maximized Efficiency, which largely reduces the cooldown of his middle ability, which his middle ability is just by far his best ability in Trooper mode, so having this card is a must-have, along with Wide-Eyed, and it'll let you get a lot of kills with the middle ability, because it'll one-shot all normal troopers, including heavies. So, that's Lando. Next is Leia. Leia has a lot of good cards. This was kind of tough, but I narrowed it down to, obviously you want the increased max health regeneration, crazy good. And for hero modes, you're going to want Relentless Firing, which increases your firing time with the E11, and receive less damage while wielding the E11. So, because your E11 is your best ability against lightsaber heroes and heroes in general, so having these two cards just makes you pretty unstoppable when you have it equipped. As for trooper modes, you're going to want to take off Rebel Heart, and depending on the range of the map, if it's close range, you'll want to take Fearless, which just gives larger thermal detonator range, lets you kill more people in a close area. But if it's more long range, you can take Laser Brain, which makes your alternate fire insta-kill everything but heavies. So, depending on map size, you'll replace Rebel Heart with one of these two cards. But those are all the cards for Leia. Next up, we have Luke. Luke has a lot of good cards too. But for trooper modes, I've narrowed it down to these. Epicenter is one you'll always want to take. That extra damage is just nice, and the secret thing that it doesn't say is that extra bonus damage will go through lightsaber heroes' blocks. So that's a little tip. But for his second card, you'll take Intensify, which allows him, the more damage he does, the more damage he does to troops, the more damage he'll do with his lightsaber, and it'll eventually let you be able to one-shot troopers. And his last card is Push, has increased area of effect. This is just good because his Push already one-shots normal troops other than heavies, so having increased area just lets you get a bigger kill chain with it. In Heroes vs. Villains, you'll take off Extended Push Reach and use Jedi Reflexes, which gives you an extra R1 or Rush, the little dash he has, whatever you play on. And in Hero Showdown, you'll also take off Intensify, because you won't be able to charge that up in Hero Showdown since it's round-based, and you'll use Rush Immunity. So, you'll use the HPV cards, except with Intensify, you'll replace that with Rush Immunity. And those are the cards for Luke. Next hero on the list also has a good array of cards. Array. My bad. Anyway, in trooper modes, you'll want to take Resilient Dash and Focused Sight. These are just good. Focused Sight gives you extra damage, lets you see where enemies are at all times. So having 7 extra seconds is really good. And Resilient Dash lets you take less damage while using the dash. And your third card you'll want to use is Damaging Strike, because this works similar to Grievous's Claw Rush card, where after you hit one person, you'll just be able to one-shot other troops. So it just makes you go on bigger kill chains when you use Dash Strike. And in hero modes, I replace Damaging Strike with either Balance, which gives her an extra dodge but increased stamina recharge. I kind of like this card more, but you could also use Opportunist, especially in HVV, where immobilized enemies will take extra damage from you, 15 extra damage. This is better in HVV because there's going to be more immobilization effects happening, but it's honestly up to you whether you'd rather use Opportunist or Balance. But having Resilient Dash and Focus Sight are always good to have. You could replace Resilient Dash with something else, but you always want Focus Sight, so it kind of leaves a lot of options, but my preference in hero modes is the 3 I have selected. And that's Ray's cards. Next up is Yoda. Yoda has some weird cards, but his best are just pretty clear. In hero modes, you want Agility and Feel the Force. These cards you'll always want. They're just really, really good. And then your last card you'll want in hero modes is Opposing the Dark Side, which just gives 16 extra damage to enemy heroes or villains, whatever. So this is just free extra damage in those modes. But in Trooper modes, you'll take that card off, and you'll use Jedi Mentor, which just gives you 8% damage reduction all the time, which isn't a whole lot, but it's really nice, especially when Yoda only has 700 health compared to 750 on most other characters. So these are the cards you would take on Yoda, and who has pretty good cards. But there's different ways you can play about with him. But the cards I have selected are actually not the best right now. You do always pretty much want to take Raise to do one thing, which gives better Deadeye lock on, and Stay Calm, which extends the duration per kill of Deadeye, which is really, really strong. But your last card you'll want to take in Trooper modes and in HVV is one Resistance, and it lets you just basically be able to spam Big Deal, which gives damage reduc and extra health. It's just a really good ability for your teammates. But you can, if you're going for like full damage, replace that card, only in Trooper modes really, but replace that card with these three. And I also think in Hero Showdown, using these three cards is the best, because most of his cards apply to having a lot of teammates around him, and these are the only cards that just kind of buff his ability. So in Hero Showdown, since you only have one teammate next to you, you'll use the 3 Deadeye cards. But yeah, he has a lot to choose from, but these are my picks for Finn's best cards. Next is Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan has some of the most glaring best cards. Obviously, you'll take his increased health regen, which lets him have the highest health regeneration in the game of 400 health, which is really crazy. It increases his survivability a lot. And then, you'll always want this card. In hero modes, you'll want Perfect Defense and Safeguard. This just increases his stamina reduction. He can get up to 80% blocking stamina reduction and 40% damage reduction, like melee damage. Stamina reduction, if that makes sense. I feel like I kind of worded that weird, but I mean, melee strikes will use 40% less stamina, but in Trooper modes, you're going to take off Perfect Defense, because being able to charge up Safeguard is just a better ability. You're going to take off Perfect Defense, replace it with Forward, which makes your Defensive Rush one-shot normal troops, so that's crucial to make him good in Trooper modes. And in Hero Showdown, where you can't really charge up Safeguard, you could replace Safeguard with Defensive Rush, but I just keep Safeguard because I feel like I get enough use out of it even in Hero Showdown. But, I might have got a little confusing with my wording there, hopefully not. But these are the cards for Obi-Wan in all modes. Get to last, we have Anakin, and Anakin's cards are pretty changed up depending on modes. So in Hero Showdown, you take Tenacious, which gives 100 extra health. That card's really good, but you just don't use it in other modes because there's better options. You take Pull Range, because it increases by a lot, and Raw Strength for that extra damage after you get a pull. As for Trooper modes, you're going to take off Tenacious, replace it with Massive Strikes so that you can one-shot Troopers, and you're going to take Attraction off and replace it with all of them so that you can one-shot with Pull if 2 people are in it. This makes him able to one-shot troops with his melee attack and all 3 of his abilities, which is pretty good, and obviously you'll keep Raw Strength. In Heroes vs. Villains, you'll keep these 2 cards, but you'll replace Tenacious with Steamroll, because charging up that stamina reduction is going to be really, really nice, and you can't really do it in Showdown, but you can do it in HVV, and it's worth it. So, those are Anakin's cards in all of his modes. Last, and honestly maybe least, is BB-8. BB-8 actually has really good cards, though. First, you'll take the no-brainer, Increased Health Regen. This is always a good card on any character. Next, you'll take Spinner. And lastly, you'll take Whirlwind. These abilities, these 3 perks, are the best for both Heroes vs. Villains and Trooper modes. It just lets your Cable Spin basically be his trump card, his thing that kills pretty much whatever. You're in a tight hallway, boom, you pop it, and its cooldown won't be that long. In Hero Showdown, I don't really like to take this card, Spinner, because you're not really going to be hitting 2 people that often in Hero Showdown, because normally they'll be kind of apart, and I don't think it counts if they block it. So most of the time they'll be blocking it, you won't hit both people. So in Hero Showdown, I recommend taking this off and putting on Roll Together, which increases his passive, which is ability cooldown for his allies. It increases it by 15%, which is really, really big if you trust your teammate. If you're playing with a random and you don't trust them or something, then you can keep using Spinner, or you can replace it with spared batteries. But I really think that this is just the best ability for Showdown. And, yeah, that's BB-8, the last of the last.
Alright, that's pretty much it. I hope the guide was helpful. Yeah, I'm still posting Battlefront 2 content in 2022. But, I don't know, it's one of the few games I play, so, and few games I'm good at. But, yeah, just, like, you know, like and whatever if you are down for more Battlefront content. And, yeah, I hope this was helpful. Hope these cards work for you. Maybe if you think a different card's better, say it. But, yeah, those are the cards for Lightside, the long-awaited, and that's pretty much it. Catch y'all later.